are we going to see, I know you've got a gag order on whether or not you're coming back to Warehouse 13. Would you do anything with Lee Majors? Just, I mean, let's say, hey, we're going to put you in and we're going to put Lee Majors in just to have a little bit of a reunion there? Do you
It's
keep in
all
touch
about the
with
script
him?
for me. Sure, I mean, you know.
Do you guys keep in touch?
Not a lot, but we see each other when, you know, every so often there's a reason for us to get together to do PR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly they're never going to, it's always us. But, I mean, we're totally friends, but we're not the type of friends that just hang out all the time.
Right. How when you started doing the conventions again, how did that feel, coming back to, I mean, you've got roomfuls of people here that have followed your career. What do you take away from, from these events with?
Yeah. Besides your money? I wasn't sure how I was going to feel in the very beginning, because again, I'm a real pretty private person. But I was really surprised. It was really fun. People have always been so nice. I mean, really, really nice. And it was very meaningful to me to hear the stories. People have told me stories that just blow my mind about what it meant to them, how it affected their lives. As my audience got older, because most of you were kids, the ability to articulate what it had meant to your life changed.
Sure.
And I've just had stories that have blown my mind about how important it was, why. And so I got to see the show from a very different perspective, although my motivation was to put anything that I could at different times into the story, including just how I would play a scene. Something was written where Jamie would just fall apart. I'd go, you know, can't we do it so that she would, I can't think of one example right now, but so that she would, be thinking of someone else here in this moment, not just herself. That she would see that this person was doing something that we considered to be bad, but they're not a bad person, and so she addresses him. Can't we rewrite it so she can address that? She realizes she's dealing with a human being who's either suffering and therefore acting out, or, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And those were the ways that I was trying to share with the kids in the audience the types of things that we talk about when I was teaching them acting, to learn to look deeper into the characters, look deeper into everything around you. And people would start sharing these stories with me, and they was like, wow, they got it. They were like a kid, but it totally soaked in, you know, and they're seeing that, or that I could be something other than, my parents wanted me on this track because that was the only thing they saw that a girl could do and take care of herself if she didn't get married and have somebody taking care of her. And I had a lady from NASA, a scientist from NASA, come and tell me that. And she said, and I was so, she said, I love my hairdresser. She said, but I had all these dreams about being something more than a hairdresser. And my parents were insistent that I go to beauty school because they said that was the only way I could really make a living if I needed to. And here she said, I just wouldn't listen to him, caused a lot of fights in the family. I said, oh. But she said, I ended up going to college, and now I work in NASA. I'm a scientist in NASA. So everything from that to how some kids who had a really, really tough life growing up would just pretend that I was their mom, and it gave them something to hold on to. I've just heard the most amazing range of stories, and that they learned and that they learned my, principles and certain types of compassion that they never saw at home, but because they saw my character doing it, they said, I want to be like that, and they worked on that in their life, So it's been very meaningful to me for people to share with me what the stories meant to them.
It almost seems like
Also, I've been able to share what I'm doing today, so it's been that, and that's been nice too. I've had several people that I've met at autograph shows actually host one of my workshops, a lady in Boston, a lady in, I'm not Boston, where were we? Baltimore, and a couple of other places, yeah.
It almost seems like the Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man, the original Star Trek, a lot of those shows in the early 70s really set a pattern of influencing kids to want to get involved in science and the arts and creative, not only the creative side. I want to write science fiction. I want to be an astronaut and that kind of thing. It seems like there was this block of shows during this one period of time where there was a lot of influence on kids to want to do that kind of thing. And I'm wondering how much of that we see now. You see stuff like all of the remakes, all of the J.J. Abrams.
I want to be a mass murderer. I want to, yeah.
Yeah, Dexter, yeah. How many people want to be Dexter? I mean, really, that's. I don't see any hands. Okay, that's good. That's good. We're in the right crowd.
But when they go home, I really wanted to raise my hand.
He asked that question. It got me thinking, and it's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
It's tough. That's another reason that I've been staying so focused in what I've been doing with the workshops, because for a while there just wasn't a lot that I was interested in doing. It was nothing caught my eye, nothing tugged at my heart to where I'd want to go do it. I think I see there seems to be like a trend of things are turning. To me, a lot of people go, reality shows, I hate reality shows. It's like, it's not that it's a reality show, it's the concept. Again, it's the concept. Everything is separation. What reality show are you seeing that's like bringing people together? Helping people learn to work together, to be a community again, to be a tribe, to be inclusive, to solve problems instead of just cut it out. That's been my issue with it. It isn't whether it's reality, whether it's drama, whether it's comedy, whether it's sci-fi. It's what is that consciousness that's inside that piece. And it's kind of, I don't get it. I don't get the trend myself. I really don't know what that's about.
Let's open up to questions. Yes?
I'd like to know what personally your favorite role ever was, and how do you memorize all those lines week after week after week?
Those sound like simple questions. But I can't tell you a lot of people ask me that. What's your favorite role? What's your favorite? And I don't have a favorite. There are different favorites for different reasons. Some performances were really hard and I'm really proud of them. Some I'm not. So I have like a few that are favorites that I felt I accomplished pretty much what I set out to do, like the Uli Derrickson story, the movie, The Flight, about the hijacking of that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen that, but I will.
Yeah. I think when it came out on DVD, it came out a different name. The Flight, is that what it was? It came out as The Flight. I think, look that up. Do we have any of those? We don't have any of those with us, no. But that one was a very hard one to play. It was very emotional. I was playing a German stewardess who lived in the United States, was married to a U.S. person, but and spoke English. But it was all a true story, and everything in that movie was true. Everything happened, and she was actually our technical advisor on the film, so she was there the whole time. And she had a slight German accent. It was very slight, which was a big German accent's often easier to do than something very slight. As well as, by the time we got all our contractual stuff worked out, I had 2 weeks to learn about a quarter of that film in German, which I didn't speak German, and to speak it well. So it was highly emotional, plus the subtle accent, plus the German, and that was a tough one. And I was very proud of my performance in that, There's other ones that I like for other reasons. One of the very first television movie I ever did, which I took, guided the writers from the beginning up from an 8-page treatment to the whole 3-hour script. And that was actually the first 3-hour movie ever made for television, was called The Incredible Journey of Dr. Meg Laurel. Did anybody see that? No? It's hardcore sci-fi here, huh? Look that one up. It was done in 1979, I think, 78 or 79. Incredible Journey of Dr. Meg Laurel. And it was placed back in history, so because it was like a Western, and it was about one of the first female doctors. And we took 2 stories, put it together. But for me, it was a metaphor about what was going on with the naturopathic world and the allopathic world. So the people who were into natural medicine, people who were into just hardcore scientific medicine. And I played the hardcore doctor, and Jane Wyman played the granny doctor up in the Appalachian Mountains. And how we came together is what my dream, my vision was for our culture. That, you're either a naturopath or, you're into hardcore medical. And these people look at these people and say they're, just voodoo doctors and they don't know anything. And these people look and they say, Rrr. And it was like, come on, let's get together. Everybody has something really wonderful, and there's just too much of toxicity in mainstream medicine where it doesn't need to be. And when it's really needed, I'm not going to go to a naturopath if I'm in an accident and I lost my arm. I'm going to go to a doctor and have him put it back on. And but then I'm going to go to my naturopath and have my immune system stimulated by natural things. They aren't contradictory. Again, it's that separateness. Bringing things together, bringing people together, bringing ideas together, and putting a wall around it because this is my thing and I can't give it to you because I have the patent on it. It's so. That's one of my favorites because it was a metaphor for what was going on in our culture and still is today, but not as much. And there's others for various reasons, but those are 2 of them.
What were you doing in your career before the Bionic Woman, and at what point did you know that it was a phenomenon?
I started in the business in '71, June of '71, and I did about 13 episodes, guest starring things, and then I made a movie called 2 People with Robert Wise was the director, and I started in that film, and then in The Paper Chase. And then after I did those 2 features, I did, and all of this happened because I did the pilot or not the pilot, we think of it as a pilot, but I did the 2-part episode of Lee's show in 74, was that 74? Yeah, must have been 74. So I was only in the business 3.5 years, I think, or so, 3.5, 4 years, when that started. So I was doing very little actually, other than those films. I did the Rockford Files pilot, and some things at Universal just as a guest star. And what was the second part?
When did you know it was a phenomenon?
Oh, wow, pretty quickly. But an iconic phenomenon wasn't until after the series, after we finished filming. We did 3 seasons, and when it just kept going and going and rerunning, and it was just, I think as a personality, as an actor, as a celebrity, I'll move it into that category. At that time, it didn't really hit me until I heard little girls being named Lindsay. Lindsay was not a common name at all in the United States. I never met anybody named Lindsay. There was Lindsay Nelson. It's actually, I guess, a Scottish boy's name, and very seldom used for a girl, even in the UK, much less the US. There was Lindsay Nelson. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember Lindsay Nelson, the sports announcer. He was a famous sports announcer. My dad was a semi-pro football player, and so, sports around our house was pretty hardcore, especially football. But so even then, it was just the man's name. I ended up getting this name, and one day I'm in the supermarket, and I hear this, "Lindsay, stop that!" And I never heard my name unless somebody was talking to me. And I looked around, and there's this woman and this little girl, and she named her daughter Lindsay. I went, wow, interesting. I still didn't get it. And she looked up and she went, oh my God, my daughter. I went, oh wow, after me, right? Oh wow. And then it happened again and again and again. And then I was like, oh my God, this is like over the top. So that, I think, was one of the early clues. But as far as the iconic status on a global level, I don't know. It took a while, but it was kind of creeping in. I guess I was asked to then come to England. And I think that same realization kept going, because it was maybe 10 years later when I was in England and I was in this park where a lot of women from Saudi Arabia were, and they were wearing their traditional garb, and they recognized me, and they came up, and I said, well, how do you know the Bionic Woman? From England? And they said, no, we have it. Saudi Arabia, you have this woman bashing these guys, and it's like, and they said, yeah.
Maybe more popular than you think of.
Yeah, do we have, he has a question?
Yeah, in the back.
First of all, it's still look great.
Thank you.
Was there any stunts that you got seriously hurt on, or injuries from the Bionic and other shows?
No, not seriously hurt. Sprains, a lot of sprains and bruises and stuff like that. But I could have been. The helicopter story? Anybody know the helicopter story? No. Did you? You've heard me tell that story.
We Rangers talked about it on TV last week also.
Really?
We talked about and how you bumped your head on one of the episodes. You bumped your head real bad. They had to sit you down for a little bit.
Yeah, and I passed out also a couple of times because we work out in the heat, and we were working so long, out there running when everybody else who was smart is inside in the air conditioning, and we're outside running across some field or something, dehydrated and trying to drink enough water, but it was really hard. Was filming in Las Vegas. Oh, somebody has a question. You know what, honey? We'll get to your question in just a minute. I saw your hand up twice, and I did not ignore it, okay? So we'll totally answer your question. No, I will. We were filming in Las Vegas on the top of this building, and it was the episode, I guess it was it Fembots? Why was I hanging on to the helicopter? Remember the helicopter? Jamie jumps up, grabs it, trying to get the bad guys, crawls up into the helicopter as it takes off. So as we filmed everything, the stunt girl had been rigged, and they had her hanging from the skid with all the wires and everything, flew her around the city, wiggled the helicopter trying to shake her off. That's the whole point. And then she starts to pull herself up, and then, of course, they need the shot of me, close up, hanging from the skid. By the time we got to that shot, it was just before the sun went down. And working on a set just before the sun goes down, if you're doing exteriors, is insane. Because that was the last few minutes. We gotta get this, gotta get that. Everybody's working really fast and really kind of cutting corners. And this close-up was one of those. But we're on the top story of the Maxim Hotel or MGM, I don't remember, one of those. And I kind of forget when you're working on the top of a building that that's where you are after you've been up there for hours. And the helicopter pad, of course, was up there. And they said, quick, we just got to grab this close-up and then we're done. So they come over and they start up the helicopter, and they've got the airbag there, and I'm supposed to hang on. They said, we're going to lift you up about 4 feet off the airbag, and then when we've got enough, you holler at the guys and do whatever you're going to do acting-wise, and then you just drop off into the airbag. I said, okay, where's the belt? And they said, we don't have time for that. And it's like, huh? And they said, we don't have time, but we're going to take you 4 feet. You did a whole 1-story jump before, and that was like, much more than this, not much. And I'm going, bid. And they said, okay. So finally I said, okay. So they lift up the helicopter. I grab a hold of the skid. We go up, and what we forgot was that in Las Vegas, the winds come up in the afternoon. So the wind hits the side of that very tall building, and what happens at the roof? It turns the corner, and it's very intense coming sideways across the top of that building. And as the helicopter went up the 4 feet, it was right in line with that airstream, and it kept pushing it over to the side, and he couldn't stay over the airbag. So now I'm going like this, I'm watching this thing. And so he went up, trying to avoid the draft more. And he went up to, now he's about like 20 feet, 15 feet, and that thing's getting smaller. That bag's getting smaller. And it was still kind of like doing this. I got so scared that finally when they were hauling, they said, okay, cut, jump. And I couldn't let go. And now I'm talking to my hands like they belong to somebody else. And I'm going, let go. And they're saying, let go, let go. And the helicopter guy's screaming at me, let go, let go. And I'm going, I'm trying. And eventually, somehow, swearing like a sailor, I got my hands to let go. And I hit the corner of the airbag, just the corner of the airbag, which was enough. And I just rolled onto the ground. And when I landed, everybody started clapping and laughing. And I thought, what are they laughing about? And I was so shaken, and I just wanted to cry. But I thought, I just got to get out of here and cry, because I'm the Bionic Woman. But I wanted to really cry. So, and my mother, can you imagine? Of all the days, my mother happened to be there. Oh. She's watching this whole thing, poor thing. And I just went over to her. I said, get me out of here. I couldn't almost even tell where I was. I was so shaken. So she took me to the stairwell, and we went in the stairwell, shut the door, and I cried. And I said, why was everybody laughing? I said, I could have been really hurt or worse. And she said, well, you have to admit that in the midst of all that fear or whatever it was, you were pretty funny. And I said, why? What did I do? And she said, when you held your nose. And I said, what? She said, when you let go, when you held your nose and you went like this. And I said, I did that? And she said, yeah. She said, do you remember when I used to take you for high diving lessons? Well, you diving lessons, good diver, good swimmer. But I hated the high dive. And every time they tried to teach me to dive off the high dive, I'd get in the position, everything was right. And as soon as they said, okay, go, I would go. And then I'd go like that. And I would never dive off the high dive. I was 7 years old again, falling off that high dive, held my nose, came all the way down. And the crew, of course, thought I was being super funny, like I often was, on purpose. This was not on purpose. So I said, oh my God, no wonder. So when we walked out there going, hey boss, how you? Because they used to call me boss. How you doing? This is great. That was so funny. No problem. Got to keep you guys laughing. Took full credit for it. We have a question from this young gentleman back here before we wrap.
Anything in the show you didn't like to do?
Very intelligent question, yes. I was really not wanting to have Jamie be brutal. Like, if you're stronger than someone, which she was stronger than everyone except Steve, in a way I feel you have an obligation to do everything you can not to use it, and to use your mind and your heart, and then use that in an intelligent way. So that's why a lot of the scenes in my show, you would see Jamie pushing down a tree if the bad guy and blocking the road, and the guys would either run into it themselves with their own force, with their own aggression, kind of an Aikido approach to power rather than a karate, which is absolute, direct combating power, force with force. And so some of the scenes, it was kind of hard to write, and we tried to do that as that. Other scenes I didn't like, boy, I think I stuffed those. It was usually around something like that. I know one I didn't like, when we were shooting out on the water. We were on a boat, and it was really rocky. And I had to do my makeup, and the only place they had was down in the bottom of the boat. And the boat going like this, and you're looking in a mirror, blah. I got so sick. I was so sick. By the time we did the scene up on the top, they couldn't use any of my shots in between the other actors speaking, because they couldn't do any shots of me listening, because every time when I would talk, do my lines, I'd be blah, blah, blah. I would just summon the energy enough to talk, and then when they would be talking, I'd be like this, listening, waiting for my line to come up, and then I would be like, so they couldn't use any of my reactions because I didn't have any. I was just green, and they kept having to put more and more rouge on me, so I didn't like that one so much.
Well, we're looking forward to maybe more Warehouse 13.
You never know. You have to keep watching to find out.
And Bionic Woman is out on DVD.
They didn't pay me to say that.
We'll honor the gag order. So, Lindsay Wagner, thanks very much for coming out.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for having me in Kansas.